And we're back. I'm Kimberly Diamond, and you're watching The Human Factor on Now Media Television. Let's dive back into today's conversation.
Hello, we're back with Erika Butler, the powerhouse of Behind Hire, HIHR LLC. We've talked about culture and inclusion, and now we're going to start to go straight to the source. So HR, the big HR word, right? So if people think that HR is just about forms and rules, and this conversation is definitely going to change their mind. Erika, I'm familiar with HR and working with HR business partners, and I believe that there's probably many people in this audience that just think that HR is here to push the rules, right? But it often feels like no one realizes how powerful HR can be when it comes to the culture, just shaping the whole organization. They're very, very important with that. And I think people lose sight of it and often think that it's, again, I'm just here to crack the whip and tell you what you're doing wrong. So why is it a mistake for businesses to treat HR as an administrative department, in today's world?
Sure. So it is so common that they make assumptions as the party planners or the terminators. I mean, it's so funny. We fall into this like box on the side that what we do everything and nothing. I mean, that's like jokes about human resources. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, Kimberly, it's a huge miss because human resources can partner with you on strategy of talent development, succession planning, career development, process improvement where there's inefficiencies throughout your whole organization. You tell me a problem in the organization, I will tell you how a strong HR partner can work with you to solve that problem. It's a very collaborative function, and it's not just for compliance. That's important, but that's a very small piece of the puzzle.
Yes, it is. And yes, it's been a stigma, and I know that some businesses feel like it's a hindrance. They hinder the process and they're trying to do things, but they don't really understand that they really save the department or the team or the organization. They really, they're there to make sure that their risks are minimal and that they can continue to do what they do in their department. So how can HR leaders become culture builders rather than those compliance enforcers that we kind of mentioned?
Well, to be fair, I'll answer this, but going off of your last comment, I think leaders need to hire for HR people that get that it's not compliance because there are HR people out there that are
There
truly
are.
focused on compliance and they're like a police officer. But then there's a lot of HR people that they can be a strategic partner and really support the business and elevate the business. So, to answer that question, the HR partners who want to be that strategic person, they can delegate compliance as much as possible. If there's already a payroll function outsourced, like Paycor, ADP, a lot of times they also will send the updated state compliance posters. Check. There's a lot of ways you can automate compliance to still make sure your business is covered and risk-free, which frees you up to dive into the talent planning, the recruiting the top talent, and their process building that's going to promote a great, healthy culture where people thrive and make clients happy, customers happy. You can really lead with that, but the compliance piece, you can automate a lot of it today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just think it's very important for them to have that opportunity and not be bogged down. I think you're right. There are some HR individuals that their experience and their career path has been in environments where people treated them more like a compliance officer and really haven't allowed them to have the voice outside of that. And I think that that's a big miss for an organization, especially if you have a very talented HR business partner. There are a lot of strategies that you can align together and to really, strengthen the culture. And I think that's, I've seen that as a big miss. Even in talent, I think talent acquisition is another one of those where you're just a recruiter. Well, no, we get to know the organization, we get to know the people, we know, what their jobs are. So, that voice too, we get put into the bucket as well. So I absolutely think that they don't realize the strategy around working together. So, well, then for you, what's an example where a strategic HR person helped a company succeed or scale?
I will talk about an example I lived through. So when I took over a role with a large organization as their like HR head, they didn't have an HR strategy. They were somewhat newly acquired and they just didn't have a strategy. They didn't have that partnership previously. And what I did was a few things. So, one, if you're working as an HR in a big company, you should always make sure every group you're supporting is connected to the larger organization as much as possible because that's not always the case. So, I educated
Right.
the team. Do you know you have tuition reimbursement? Do you know you have an LMS learning management system that you can grow? Do you know you have employee resource groups? They didn't, and I think being aware of what the larger organization offers and make sure that communication is down to every part of the organization so they feel that value as an employee. That's one. Two is you're going to like this, Kimberly, I think. They had roles open for 9 months. So I just put this, like, one of the top four rungs of my HR strategy that I was reporting out to the leadership team was recruiting. And it was sales roles. And like, we're missing out, and they knew it, but that can't be. We're missing out on so much revenue, right? At open territory for 9 months. Absolutely not. So that was like a huge focus to work with our recruiters and like bring everyone together and like problem solve. And we figured out why it was taking so long and we turned that around. So like key things like that really that bring in revenue, that elevate the business. That's why I said HR truly touches every part. And you can even
Mm-hmm.
first year, losing first years and they don't know why. So we put a whole program around onboarding first years for the first 12 months. They were just covered and mentored and they were loving it. I mean, it just completely turned around our turnover for first years. So there's just so much you can do as an HR partner to elevate every part of the business.
I love that. I absolutely love what you just said about that 12 months. It really, retention's a challenge anymore. Obviously, people have a lot of options, and if they, you can lose people if they start to feel disengaged, not appreciated, just or not getting what they need. Sometimes they put them into a position, and they go for, they. I definitely believe in the 90 days. A year would be great if you could get an organization to commit to that process.
Or like
I definitely believe in
quarterly check-ins, just to be
quarterly check-in. Yeah.
yeah, like
I believe
after
in the
90 days.
definitely the 60 30 60 90 program, for sure, if you really want to, to help your retention first year. So, you're speaking my language there. That's a big thing for me. So, well, then how can small companies use HR to compete with the bigger companies that have the big, the whole HR scale? They have one HR person that has to do everything: payroll, benefits, and recruiting, and
Well,
employee relations.
love it.
So,
I love this question. I will use this opportunity to give a life hack for leaders in this position. So, I mean, I have seen thousands and thousands of surveys now, results. I just, thousands, and it's the same every time. The top three, and I'll add a bonus, the top three reasons people are frustrated, dissatisfied. It's communication, it's lack of recognition, it's lack of accountability, and it is career development. The last one, it's a little smaller, but that's another reason people rate poorly on surveys. It doesn't matter. Fortune 100, small companies, it's just a theme that people struggle with, and it's also hard for the company. So, knowing that information as a leadership team with only one HR professional or a part time HR person, tackle that, run at that, build great communication routines for your team, build a recognition plan for your team. Like, if you can take care of those four things, it doesn't matter who you're competing with. If you do that well, you will have a strong performing team with low turnover if you can do those four things well and rally around those four things.
right, and they can build those out in advance and have that process ready. Just it's a step process that they take, and it will really make a big difference. And then they can also work with individuals like yourself to help them. It's there's nothing wrong with reaching out to a resource. I know budgets are very important to people, but resources can get them launched and started. It doesn't mean it has to be a forever, forever relationship. It's nice if it is, but you know what I'm saying. At least get them going in that direction, so they don't feel so overwhelmed by trying to. Because I do deal with a lot of groups that's what happens. They're small, and because they're small, obviously they're using my services because they don't have a recruiting team potentially. They have like one HR person who's doing everything, and you can see where they, number one, get struggle and they get burnt out because they're trying to balance everything. But if they have that program set in place and they know what that process is, either set by a professional like your team or they build it themselves, they just know that's what they follow. That piece is done. They just have to stay consistent with it. So yeah, I
Absolutely.
agree.
It's
So
kind
if
of a
someone's
plug
building
and
an,
play. Your expertise
yes,
is you know what you're doing, Kimberly, and you're gonna add value quickly. It's not like, oh, this person did operations, let's put them in recruiting. I
yeah,
mean, they could get trained, but like hiring someone for a project that knows what they're doing is going to really pay off. I believe
yes,
that. I've seen it just
I believe it too. I believe it too. Yeah, absolutely. Well, if someone's building an HR team from scratch, what should they prioritize first?
Yes, I would say absolutely number one is the pulse survey. And what I mean by that is where does the team stand? What's going well for them? What isn't? What are the low-hanging fruits we can just easily knock out right away? Because if there are issues with the team and they're frustrated, we want to address that as soon as possible. Number two, of course, is compliance, right? You don't want to be out of compliance with employment law. So just we have
Right.
assessments to see red, green, yellow. Where do you fall? What do we need to knock out? And the last piece is what are the broken processes that are just causing inefficiency, causing frustration across the team that we can use continuous improvement and fix. So those are like the three areas I would run at first if you're new to a team or need HR support on your team.
Okay. And then what, how about the recruiting side of it? Do you, is that, because a lot of times that's where they're sitting on when I'm come across them, it's, I need recruiting help, but I need people to keep me compliant. So it's like, these are like what their focus is right now, right? So obviously, so they're trying to balance that. And I've recently worked with a couple companies like that. So I think if they need recruiting, they need to understand where their resources can be, where they can get them, whether it's a temporary environment, staffing, what have you, just to have that in their back pocket, in their bucket, have that to reach out to while they're getting their arms around any compliance issues.
If they have open key positions, fill them as soon as possible, of
Exactly,
course.
because it
But
stresses them out. They're just like
exactly.
they're all over the place. So I agree
Everyone's
with
doing
that.
multiple roles. I mean, it's just not worth it. I would like really rally around that. But at the same time, compliance, you can do an assessment 3 to 5 hours and know where you stand. So it's really actually not this overwhelming thing. It's a low cost, and at least you know where you stand. Take some of the stress out, and you're like, all right, that's what it is. This is what we have to fix. So I feel like for even small companies, budget wise, it's affordable, and like get those positions filled ASAP.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Yes. And it
Yeah.
sounds like you have the ability to help them with that because a lot of them they're not sure. They're not really, some of them don't even have HR and they've never had it. So they don't really know where they're out of compliance. So that someone like you or a consultant can, help them identify that and get on top of it before it gets out of hand while they're trying to fill positions. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, Erica, where can they find you and your company?
Sure. The best place is our website at gohihr.com. And we have a comment box. Love to get back to you for any of these topics and further discussion. Also, we're on LinkedIn, HIHR LLC, and you can comment on our page, reach out to us, and we'd love to be in touch.
Great. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with another conversation with Erica, so stay with us.
We'll be right back with more stories, insights, and real-world strategies for leading with purpose. This is The Human Factor on Now Media Television.